United 58, number 40, Jonathan Gavanis. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is full time in the under-20s of NPL New South Wales men. The final score, Manly United 2, Sydney United 58 2. The goal scorers for the game for Manly United, Kai Evans in the 3rd minute from the penalty spot and Max Walker in the 58th minute. The Sydney United 58 a double to Jonathan Gavanis in the 11th minute and the 19th minute. Ladies and gentlemen, approximately 10 minutes time, we'll have first grade of NPL New South Wales men between your Manly United FC and Sydney United 58.
Manly United would like to thank the following businesses for their support for the 2026 season. Community Bank Freshfield, Brown Brothers Skip Beans, Manly Marine Football Association, Ray White Team Nemo, Woodvale Mazda, One Mark, DYRSL, Lions Sport Traffic, Italy Galgala and Monova, JB Metropolitan, CMS Surveyors, Auto Body Smash Repairs, Brookvale Aluminium, Chase Projects, The Athlete's Foot, Green Mall and Warrior Square, Black Label Developments, Internet Recycling, Blue Dog Signs, Northern Beaches Marine, Fine Apparel, Lumis Imaging, Tronics, Riggs Brookvale, Grill D-Wire and Best Team. Now don't forget to head to the canteen behind the Northern Goal for tea, coffee, cold drinks, snacks, hot food and one of the world famous chicken schnitzel rolls. And if you're after a meal or a drink, the License Club at the Far Post is open until midday, Saturday and Sunday on the eastern side of the field.
Right. What do we have here?
When the opportunities you get up.
Good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome to the northern beaches of Sydney for the kick-off to round 19 of the NPL New South Wales men's competition. Sydney United 58 visiting Manly United FC, continuing their hunt for a first New South Wales premiership in a decade at Cromer tonight. Not only chasing that premiership, but looking to end a 15-year league hoodoo at Cromer Park. They haven't won here since the pitch was still real grass back in 2011. They do come with the backing of a cup victory here back in May. The scorers that night, Carlos de Oliveira, who's got 5 in his last 6, and former Manly winger Farah Coco, who'll be wanting a repeat performance against his old club tonight. You can hear through the PA.
Congratulations to Keith Pester on this well-deserved honour. Please will join us in recognising and celebrating this outstanding achievement.
But Keith Pester has been awarded an OAM. Manly United recognising that. The King's Birthday honours for a life member, a long-time board member here. Congratulations to him. Let's go to the team news for this evening. Vlado Knežević has rung the changes from the team that were defeated 2-0 by Apia Leichhardt at Lambert Park a week ago. Mackenzie Cyril returning to goal for the first time since round 9 here against Sydney FC, where he picked up an upper leg injury. Good to see him back between the sticks. Jesse Pires is his captain. He starts at right back. Aaron O'Driscoll partnering Luke Neuenhoff in the heart of defence tonight. Kakeru Ono scored in that cup tie back in May. He's the left back. A new look midfield 3. Douglas John in for his first start. Last year's Lucas Neal medal winner, the best young player at the club, brought into the starting 11 by Knežević tonight. He partners Saxon Hillier and Darcy Burgess to play at the top of the triangle. Ayumu Kimura is restored on the right wing. Stefan de Robillard retaining his place on the left, with Sam Griffiths making his way back to start up top this evening in place of Ben Coop. Sydney United, by contrast, unchanged from the team that beat the Wanderers by 2-0 in Rudy Hill last weekend. That means Carl Chimenzi keeps his place up front after a first strike of the season, and Carlos de Oliveira is back in the heart of midfield. Behind them, Adam Pavlicic, who hasn't missed a start since round 2, Bailey Rule, Michael Glasic, the captain Adrian Vlastelica, and Koya Nakano are the back 4. De Oliveira partnering Rose in the middle of the park, with Tommy Ozanic at the point of the triangle. Farah Coco, the left winger. Gabriel Tillo, the 17-year-old sensation, off the right. And Carl Chimenzi, as we mentioned, leading the line. So, all in readiness. Beck Mackey's our referee tonight. The League women's official during the summer season. Back to State League football. And she gets us underway after 11 unbeaten to start the season. Sydney United's path has been a little rockier in the last 6 weeks, but they could put the wind back in their sails with a win tonight. And more importantly, put some pressure on Apia Leichhardt. Marconi, who are also 2 points in front of them heading into the start of the night, kick-off at 8 p.m. There's been a few fixtures juggled around from usual starting times to accommodate the Socceroos. Kicking off against Turkey. 2 o'clock on Sunday. It's a big weekend of football across Australia, and it all gets started here on the northern beaches of Sydney tonight. Alex Molchanoff, my name, along with you on the Football New South Wales YouTube channel. Thank you for choosing to spend your evening with us, wherever you are around Australia or indeed the world. Sydney United winning the previous league fixture. We mentioned that cup tie here in the pre-game. 2-0 they won back in round 4 to Muki Wada, who's not far away from a return, but still not fit enough for the bench tonight. And Mason Wells, the goal scorers there. Wells available off the bench. Just thought of coming into the year as one of Sydney United's most important tribute to the depth that Miro Vlastelica has built, that he can't find his way into the starting team at the moment. There's one who hasn't oft been out of it since his move to Sydney United a few years ago now, Bailey Rule. He's been wearing the captain's armband in the absence of Adrian Vlastelica at different times this season, and takes the ball off Gabriel Tillo here. And Michael Glassick, who was back in the starting lineup for the first time in a month last week. Delighted to have him there. And here's Vlastelica, who's making his way forwards, a cutting pass that was cut off. Has a second bite at the cherry. Again, Coco just not able to bring the ball under his spell. Mentioned Coco, the former Sydney United charge. Stefan de Robillard on the other side. Spent last season with Sydney United. Key player on their run through the Waratah Cup, funnily enough. Competition they've made their own over the last decade, really. Darcy Burgess looking for the referee's whistle. I don't think it was ever coming. Pavlicic under a bit of pressure from Griffiths. Both he and Gabriel Tillo just couldn't control that ball. Have been in and around Australian underage team calculations in the last 6 months. Tillo was called up to the under-20s after Manchester United youngster James Overy pulled out of a squad back in March. Getting in and around the national team setup. It's positive. Sam Griffiths has been playing in a couple of ID games that's been set up by Trevor Morgan and his staff. And of course, we've got Douglas John, who's about to head this ball away, making his first start tonight. Just 18 years of age. Won the club's Under-20 Player of the Year award a year ago. He's made 3 substitute appearances so far in his first-grade career, but great faith from Vlado Knežević to start him against such high-quality opposition this evening. Nieuwenhof playing back to Siron, who might just have a little bit of ring rust after 10 weeks out. Really happy to have him back in goal. Harry Turner deputised for him well, but just looking for that measure of experience and a little bit of extra size that Siron brings to the starting lineup as well. Come out and command his area a little better than the 18-year-old. Here's Luke Nieuwenhof, who's been pushed back into defence. It's really been he and Jasper Chipman alternating between partnering Aaron O'Driscoll at the heart of defence over the last couple of months. Oh no, not able to get on the end of the return pass. Back into the 1-2. It's only a penalty last week for Kyle Chimenti, but for someone who's had such injury problems over the last 3 seasons, it's been good to see him back in the goals. Lost his spot in the starting lineup at the start of the year to Michael Krislovic, who started hot, has cooled off a little. I do wonder how much the attacking thrust of Sydney United that was so present early in the season has been down to the injury to Mokiwada. Ball playing ability he gave them. Tommy Ozanic in that number 10 position tonight. Club Junior, who they've got very high hopes for. And Nakano not dealing with that ball down the left flank. Good ball in from Pires. Just an air swing from Burgess. Still sat up for the Robillards. And Rose was well positioned to block. First worry of the night for the visitors. Coming just after the 5-minute mark. Manly United have acquitted themselves well here against superior opposition this season. They got a draw 2-2 against Derby Leichhardt earlier in the year. That raised a few eyebrows, but they've repeatedly played to the level of their opposition here. It's gone both in the positive and the negative direction. The performance here a couple of weeks ago against second bottom Blacktown City left quite a bit to be desired. 0-0 draw, and again they'll feel they should have taken more from. Tenuously placed, 4 points above the promotion relegation spot. Reminder, those of you perhaps fresher to the competition, the bottom team in the NPL New South Wales goes automatically down to the second tier of New South Wales football, League One. Second bottom team engaged in a promotion relegation playoff with the second place team from that same League One competition. Manly were involved in a bit of a relegation scrap a year ago, managed to pull themselves clear of trouble over the last month of the season, but don't really want to repeat that tightrope walk in 2026. Vlado Knezovic has been keen to point out that his team have been competitive, and he's correct in that assessment, but copped a number of late goals which have just hampered their efforts to move them a little further up the table. Competitive again at Lambert Park a week ago, but just outmatched more than anything by both Apia's depth and their young talent, Oscar Gonzalez and Max Court, neither of whom have turned 19 yet. Partnering up front. And then Presley Ortiz, the former Manly United charge, coming off the bench to score against them again. He seems to have scored in almost every match since he departed here a couple of years ago against his old club. Here's Kikeru Ono. Japanese duet down the left-hand side for Knezovic tonight behind Ayumu Kimura. It's the hero against St George City away from home a couple of weeks ago, scoring in the 92nd minute to win that game for them. Ono's burst clear here though, and he might be thinking about a shot. He's face to face with Glasic and goes near post. Sharp from Pavlicic. Had to be alert because Glasic looked as though he had it covered, and then Ono somehow found a way to sneak it around him. Perhaps a more impressive piece of goalkeeping than it looked on first viewing. Almost unsighted there, Adam Pavlicic. That's a very, very good save. Manly United with two pretty clear-cut chances in the opening 10 minutes. I'm not sure that's how too many would have predicted this evening to start. But as we mentioned, they have that historic record here in the league against Sydney United. They've not won on artificial turf here in league football. And as Northern Beaches locals will know, it's been quite a while since that's been the case at this ground. It's not been synthetic. This is the second iteration of this synthetic field here on Cromer Park number 1. Here's Rose. Ono. Or Nakano, I should say. Coco now on the ball off the left flank. Looking to dart inside Jesse Perez. His ball is overhit. That's too much of Gabitillo. He's had a rapid rise. Miro Vlastelic has kept the faith with him more often than not. He only saw 45 minutes of action a week ago. So impressive. Started at right back in most of their championship games at the end of last season, but has been such a threat further forward that really Vlastelica had no choice but to put him further up the field. It's not one to change winning teams too often, Miro Vlastelica. He's did for the same 11 that got the job done against the Wanderers last weekend. Carlos de Oliveira, who's always active, seems to be in an even richer vein of form over the last month in terms of his goal scoring and his attacking output. Might be some defending to do here, though, for Sydney United. Man, they have started this game pretty brightly. Burgess perhaps forcing the pass a little, turning it over. Vlastelica. And now de Oliveira. Out for Tillo. assessing his options. He doesn't have too much support. Throws it back for the more experienced Bailey Rule, trying to pick his pass through a triangle of Manly United defenders. We're not quite able to do that, but Sydney United will settle for the throw. Reminder as well, we've got the one concurrent fixture tonight, Marconi kicking off against Sydney FC in about 10 minutes' time. Hillier, who started this game very brightly, almost as though I talked him into the error. He plays it for Nakano. Strong hold-up play from Chimenti. And Coco loves to run, has a bit of room to do so. His decision-making at the end of all that wasn't his best. It's been a season of growth. Vlado Knežević is first in charge for Manly United. A couple of managers last year. Patrick Zvansvijk made it clear that he wasn't going to be here in 2026, so the club made the move to end his tenure a little earlier than the end of the season, with safety in the competition looking fairly secure. Jimmy Snedden taking over in a caretaker capacity. It's a nice knockdown from Griffiths, and Burgess in a dangerous area. There's appeals for a handball, but Classic had turned his body away, did everything he could to get his arm out of the way. No way that referee Mackie could point to the penalty spot there. And now Sydney United coming with an intense press, led by De Oliveira, away from Hillier, with the help of Tillo. Delivery just a little behind Chimenti, might still fall for Carlos De Oliveira. Ducking and weaving on the edge of the area. Coco's slide rule pass, and Ozanic just a step behind. Mackenzie Siron, who after 10 weeks out with injury, gets a very heavy-handed welcome back to the New South Wales NPL. Well, he had every right to compete for that ball. Tommy Ozanic, had he been a step ahead of where he ended up, might well have got to the ball before Manly United's goalkeeper and found the opening goal of the evening. Close run thing, you see the quality that Sydney United possess in those tight areas. Gorgeous through ball for him. Only due to the alertness of the Manly United gloveman that this game is still locked up at 0-0, and Ozanic, who committed the foul, getting checked on by the Sydney United physio. Been an entertaining start to this game. Both teams throwing numbers forward in attack, tidy ball playing around the edge of both boxes. There's crowded around Ozanic, which I don't think is what Miro Vlastelica will want to see. Did get everything to get to that ball. Ozanic is the sort of player that Sydney United have been looking to bring through more and more often. We had the best luck bringing juniors through for the past 3 or 4 seasons, but there's been a steady flow of them starting to make their mark in the first grade side recently. Krislovic was the star of the early season along with Tillo. Ozanic had been playing a growing part. Mason Wells is getting warm on the touchline. No surprises there. He'd be the natural replacement, you would think. Whether he goes into that central role is a different question. There's still, of course, the possibility that Ozanic gets to his feet here and is quite right to continue. Doesn't look to be in too bad a way. Might have just copped a kick from Siron as well on the way through it. And a yellow card shown by Rebecca Mackie as he gets back to his feet. They describe him as a little unfortunate, but he was second to the challenge. The studs are showing. Most referees will come to that decision. Just a little momentum breaker early in the first half as Sydney United were starting to find their feet. Ozanic is going to try and make his way back on, but Sydney United defending with 10 for the moment. There's a little bit of consternation about whether Ozanic is going to get back on. Yanni Fragoyanis and Miro Vlastelic are very keen for him to get back out there sooner rather than later. And now he has rejoined play. As Manly United work the ball slowly forwards. Pires has a deflected cross. I tell you what, it wasn't a bad effort from Griffiths. Running a long way in front of the near post. The ball wasn't a million miles away from forcing Adam Pavlicic into a save. This is a game that has had some goals scored when players have been off with injuries. I seem to remember Alan Aganovic being off when Sydney United scored a late winner against Manly out at Enza Park a couple of years ago. Then coach Patrick Zvansvijk was not too happy with. Miro Vlastelic nearly had a headache of his own there. His son and captain Adrian on the football. So they look to regain some of the momentum they carried into Ozanic's injury. Nakano not able to find the feet of Kyle Chimenti. Took its time to find his way into the starting 11. Koya Nakano joined for the start of the Australian Championship season. That was ill-fated, but his first start of the league campaign earlier this year, he scored against Marconi, the game-deciding goal. Massive afternoon at Adenza Park. The second goal of the year came in a loss, but that was against Apia Leichhardt, so seems to be scoring in the big games. The Sydney United left back. Ball between the lines from O'Driscoll for de Robillard. Now Pires trying to curl the ball in behind Sydney United's defence. Quite the luck. Decent crowd in here at Cromer Park, the 900 seats. Lucas Neal stand is about half full. I'd say there's another just shy of 100 or so over at the far post. One of the best places to watch football anywhere around New South Wales. The far side of Cromer Park. That's of course if you're not watching with us live on the Football New South Wales YouTube channel. Classic and Vlastelic are playing a little game between themselves at the moment. Now the cutting pass for Rose. A rare misplaced pass from the young Sydney United midfielder. That might allow Manly United forwards in transition. Kimura down the left with runners inside him. And the ball's deep to Robillard in a foot race with Pavlicic. Not sure he was the intended target. He was certainly closest to it though. Would have been a very sweet goal for Stefan de Robillard against his former club. Just going to be careful here, Sydney United. Manly United have shown a desire to press high up the pitch early in this game. It's not always been the case recently. Had a couple of looks at them already this season in League and Cup. Knezovic is clearly thinking that being positive and proactive, even without the football, is the way to go. It's been a much more stylish game of football than Manly United's last outing here against Blacktown City, which did dissolve into a bit of an arm wrestle. You can use every cliche you want. It just didn't turn into a great game of football. This is following quite a different trajectory here this evening. Is pressured by Coco into the corner and no free kick blown. And a shaking of hands between the teammates from a season ago. I'm sure that's a battle that's been fought in training once or twice over. I'm sure Jesse Perez would just stick that to the back of his mind for a little later on. Nearly a quarter of the way through this first half. Best two chances came in the opening 10 minutes, and they both came in favour of the hosts. Adam Pavlicic forced into a sharp save from Kekeru Ono's strike. After a chance had been flashed just wide a couple of minutes earlier. Darcy Burgess looks to have the bit between his teeth this evening. Couldn't win that ball. Sydney United have managed to play through the press. De Oliveira in the nick of time for Tillo. This is where he loves to operate. It's a difficult one for De Oliveira to control. Knocks it up in the sky. Rose brings it down. Ozanic. De Oliveira. Tillo a little rushed. He's played that pass out for Bailey Rule. Keen to bring in the counter press and see if Sydney United can win the ball in a dangerous area. Siron over the top of that press. Griffiths and Rulin are coming together rather than a foul being blown either way. Net win for Sydney United as the throw goes in their direction. Interesting start to the season for Sydney United. I mentioned that 11-game unbeaten run they went on. The top favourites to take things out. Then a little bit of an injury bug struck, along with a couple of suspensions. To the point where they've now lost 4 of their last 7. In league football, they've managed to progress to the Australia Cup round of 32. No club has made more entries into the national rounds from outside the A-League than them. Another Waratah Cup semi-final. Took out that trophy again last year. Full turnover from De Oliveira, and then perhaps an even poorer option from Ayumu Kimura, which doesn't bring compliments from his coach, let's put it that way. It's clear talent that Ayumu Kimura possesses. Occasionally the decision making is not always matching that. There's a poor turnover from Sydney United. Both teams making errors, and Griffiths' presence forces Classic to turn the ball behind, and Manly United have a corner after all of that. Anything but tidy. Effective enough though. Occasionally the ends justify the means. If I can find the opening goal of the evening, I'm not sure too many will remember the build-up. Not been Manly United's forte, scoring from corner kicks this season, but the delivery is good. Anything can happen. Ono is over to swing this one in towards Pavlicic. It's well directed, and Hillier scrapes the crossbar. One of the shortest men in there. In fact, I think it was Jesse Perez who held his run and nodded the ball just over the crossbar. What an opportunity. Completely unmarked at the edge of the box. They did a fair bit of power on the header, but he managed that, just not to steer the ball on target. Pavlicic may well have had it covered in any case, but just a few too many opportunities springing up, I'm sure, for Miro Vlastolitz's liking in the opening 25 minutes here. They've not looked as cool as and considered as they did in May, although Chimenti's trying to lay it on for Ozanic. Well read by Neuenhoff to cut out the attack. And Burgess's header was up rather than forwards. Sydney United can build something from an attacking throw. Mason Wells is still up and warming up here. I don't know that Tommy Ozanic is going to last much longer. He's still moving with a little bit of a limp. Comes onto that ball fairly freely though. The 18-year-old. Rose. Always looks to play with a calm beyond his years. Former MacArthur Bull. I should say, former Sydney FC Academy player. Nakano finding his way into midfield, flitting the ball out for Farakoko. Returns the ball to Nakano. Sydney United patient in their build-up as they have been for most of the season. Long been a possession-based team. That bit hasn't changed. They have struggled to break down well-set defences at different times this year, although Manly have not exactly been sat in deep. They do have all 11 behind the ball as Rose knocks it out for his captain Vlastelica and Classic and De Oliveira. Classic looking for that big switch of play. Nakano's header only as far as O'Driscoll. Vlastelica strong enough to win that ball over the top of young Sammy Griffiths. Clever touch from Douglas John. Isn't the worst bit of hold-up play from Griffiths either, but the progressive pass fell short. Sydney United can regroup again. Funnily enough, Manly United have actually played with more possession than most in the league this season. 5th highest in terms of the amount they've kept game on game, which is above Sydney United. Slightly surprised to learn that statistic when researching for this game this evening. Especially considering Manly United have generally looked more dangerous in counter-attack than they have building attacks from the back, but it speaks to the style of play that Vlado Knežević is trying to instill. This young squad that he's assembled, a lot of them part of that under-20s premiership a year ago. It's a great achievement for an association club to top the A-League academies in the underage competitions. Zanic cut off by de Robillard. Forward pass from Hillier was nice to find Griffiths. De Robillard scrapping with Nakano. Might have fouled him in the end, but referee happy to let things continue. This game of football has flowed. There's been a lot of ball in play. Both teams trying to get forward and attack. The tidiness that was present in the opening 25 minutes has just departed a little, and it's descended into a bit of a scrap. Both teams showing plenty of desire to try and play there. Pavlicic goes route number 1 up to Chimenti. He's not a traditional link-up man, but he did enough to knock that one down for De Oliveira. And now Tillo. He's so exciting in these areas. Gabriel Tillo, well marshalled by Ono. The corner is Sydney United's there. Good play all round, really. Nice bit of hold-up from Chimenti, finding De Oliveira. Manly United's defence holding firm for the moment. Just tick past the half-hour mark. Coco, who scored the opener in the Cup in May, delivering this corner. Vlastelica got his head to it. The ball did not travel in the direction he desired, but it went straight back to Coco. That's more dangerous. Pires rose highest to clear the danger from inside his 6-yard box. Rule returns the favour. Pires again in the way. De Oliveira trying to recycle. A clever bit of work from Douglas John to not only clear his lines but find Darcy Burgess upfield. And now Griffiths can run at the defence, forcing Rose to face his own goal. And that really is a very tidy piece of defensive work. Tillo with a swivel of their hips and then brought down by Hillier. Got plenty of the ball, just enough of Gabriel Tillo though as well. Sydney United fortunate to pick up Tillo. He's passed over by a couple of A-League academies in his younger years. There's plenty of A-League interest, we're told now, but I think Sydney United will be hanging on for as long as they can. He dumps the bigger Neuenhoff to the turf, but the Manly United defender had done enough to see the ball behind. It's been engaging without being all action this first half. Vlado Knezovic and Miroslav Stolica sharing a word or two. The game has had an underlying physicality to it. It's all pretty good-natured for now. So forced to clear his lines. What Sydney United want. They've been set up to defend pretty high themselves, and the press has won the ball back cleanly. Tillo goes for goal. He's got no fear this point. Good piece of defending. Neuenhoff's cut him off a couple of times in the last couple of minutes. He's won his side another attacking corner. Fell out of the team for the starting team. Gabriel Tillo for the win over St George a month ago. He hasn't dropped out of the starting side since, and this first half we're seeing why. Coco delivers the ensuing set piece. Neuenhoff typically well positioned. Rule. Seems like only yesterday Bailey Rule was playing his football at the Northern Tigers in League One, where he was a standout. He's made more than 100 appearances for Sydney United now over the past 3 seasons. He's played a lot of football in League and Cup and barely missed any time with injury or suspension. Coco is the subject of some medical attention here. To his feet and made his way to the touchline under his own steam. Marconi game against Sydney FC is kicked off down at Bosley Park as well. They're 10 minutes in. Game is still scoreless. This is our match of round 19 in the NPL New South Wales men's. My name is Alex Smolchanov. Manly United have had 3 pretty good chances in the opening half, while Mackenzie Siron's yet to be forced into a save. I said Sydney United have played a touch more possession and territory. Stolica typically combative, but had to ride a challenge himself there. Burgess put the pressure on. 2 relatively experienced heads amongst young squads going into battle there. Darcy trying to go into the leadership role that his brother Max did for the Newcastle Jets in the A-League this year. Always thought of the pair of them as talented youngsters, successful youngsters in their junior years. Looking to play in the heartbeats of a side that's moving up the successful end of the table. John, just not strong enough to ride the challenge of Rose there. Neuenhoff bails him out. He'll get a second crack, Dougie John. Is just calling for calm from his team as he plays the ball back for O'Driscoll. Like for like, the 2 right backs for the 2 teams tonight. Not 2 players you'll often hear commentators highlight, but Pires and Bailey Rule might be going head to head for Team of the Year honours in that position. Tillo is forward and shooting just wide. Poor turnover playing out from the back from Manly United, and Tillo just sending his strike the wrong side of the post. Clearest chance of the game so far for Sydney United. Ball just swerving wide both of the post, and happily in the end for Manly United, Mackenzie Ciron's finger. He does cover an awful lot of that goal, and occasionally beyond these two posts. He'd be quite happy that he didn't manage to get a touch on that. Had his angles covered. That might just give Manly United the wake-up call they were looking for. The early sting and bit of pizzazz both teams were showing in the opening 25 minutes has gone out of the game in the last 10. Manly United might bring some back here with Kimura and Ono linking up. Dangerous ball to the edge of the area. Robillard couldn't get there, and Pires happy to trip up Farakoko and prevent the attack developing quickly. Vlastelica searching for Tillo, and it was worth the risk. It nearly unpicked Manly United's defence well and truly. In the end, Tillo almost overran it slightly. Just judged his own pace. Griffiths with Vlasic in his back this time, and again the referee waves away the appeals for a free kick. Chimenti and Ozanic, here's Coco. Oh, he just couldn't sort his feet out at the crucial moment. And you can see Vlado Knežević, as that ball comes to him, he wanted the free kick given to Sam Griffiths further up the pitch. Andrew Vlastelica and Michael Vlasic know how to make the referee's job very difficult when playing against lone hold-up players like Sam Griffiths tonight. He's got the better of Vlasic there, though, and Kimura's away, pursued by Vlastelica. And Kimura got to the ball first, but just lost his balance. You want to see why Sydney United are such a sturdy defensive outfit. That passage, well, those couple of passages of play, I've just showed you exactly why. Vlasic and Vlastelica both perfectly capable of being the defender that takes the position of the old-fashioned stopper, tracking a hold-up man into midfield, and then Vlastelica showing his capabilities as a sweeper in behind his defensive partner as well. Young central defenders out there could do a lot worse than watch those two, the way they go about things as a partnership. Got a very capable understudy, you can call him that, in Liam McGing as well. And Manly United feel they're not getting the whistle as much as they'd like at the moment. Sydney United just a little more determined to win the football, and not too worried whether it's by fair means or foul, as long as the referee's happy to let it go. Well, they've got to play to that whistle. Just can't deal with United's pressure at the minute. Ozanic turning past John. The two youngsters going head-to-head. Coco found himself in a shooting position a couple of moments ago. Didn't manage to trouble Ciron. Sydney United looking as good as they have all half, with half-time in sight. Looking just to ramp up the pressure on their opposition. Manly United sitting as deep as they have in this first half. Vlasic. It's given Tillo something to chase. I'm not sure it was the intention. Manly United pitch that's playing pretty quickly tonight. That ball beats the 17-year-old out of play. Gorgeous night for football. Temperatures just touching 18 degrees as we kicked off here. Cool but not cold. Not a breath of wind, Sydney today either. Chimenti on the turn. Ozanic. And De Oliveira off Chimenti's clever touch. The ball takes a deflection on its way behind. Really intricate play on the edge of their attacking penalty area there from Sydney United. That's the best of them. Really provided a shooting opportunity for De Oliveira. He's had a taste for goals over the last 6 weeks. 5 goals coming in the past 6. Including a strike against the Western Sydney Wanderers a week ago. He's over to take this corner. A crowd of 4 around Mackenzie Siron, and he's returned to the starting team today. Classic couldn't win the header at the front post. Coco's pass left short and cut out by John. Coco. Trading passes with De Oliveira. Well, he looks set to go on a run there himself there, Farah Coco. Just laid the ball off, and Manly United were alert to that. Clearly a move they've seen 1 or 2 times before. Sydney United regathering themselves for one last attack. One last raid on Manly United's goal before half-time. Coco's delivery away by Neuenhoff, and Rule can strike them from there. Chimenti punishes the error. A hit and hope from Bailey Rule, not dealt with by Manly United, and it's a deserved lead for Sydney United at Cromer Park. Cole Chimenti with goals in back-to-back weeks. Had to wait more than half the season for his first. That was a sharp piece of striker's play, though, when the ball fell to his feet. A clean first touch, an even better second to beat Mackenzie Siron and fire Sydney United into the lead. Well, Driscoll will be disappointed, but the ball flew to his feet at a high rate of knots. The Irishman not able to deal with it and punished by, well, a man who's got such a terrific goal-scoring record in this competition across a couple of stints with this football club. They're very happy to have him back in goal-scoring form. He made the move over to Marconi back in 2023. It was touted as one of the biggest transfers of the offseason, not least because he was moving between the two big Fairfield rivals. But that happy habit of goal scoring is starting to find the way back into Carl Chimenti's makeup. Big shoes to fill in that number 9 with Patrick Antelmi, who filled it for so long. Goals in back-to-back weeks, exactly the way to go about it. Now Sydney United playing with the confidence of their early season form. Ozanic, it's a little hobbled. He hasn't quite been moving as freely since that little injury stoppage he took earlier in the first half. Prevented him from getting back into an onside position. Now how do Manly respond? This has been problem at different times for them this season. Find themselves chasing games. They've not been awfully effective at finding their way out of trouble. In fact, they've only scored 1 goal in the last 5 weeks of football. Is an ever-present worry, even more so when you do trail by a goal to 0 at home. 3 minutes to be added on at the end of the first half, says our 4th official, Charlie Hollings.
3 minutes of time added on.
Looks as though the break is coming at the right time for the hosts, who started this game more brightly than their visitors. Sydney United's class has shown as the first half has worn on. Favourites coming into tonight. It's never an easy visit up here, as they know better than anyone. This team unburdened by a lot of the stuff that's befallen them in the past, have played with a certain freedom this evening, which will be very pleasing to Miroslav Stolica. Well-directed pass from De Oliveira for Tillo. Ozanic couldn't find a way through. It's a good covering challenge from John. Maybe one last chance before half-time for Manly United now. Robillard cut off swiftly by Vlastelice, then ran into a little bit of trouble himself. Rose there to bail him out. Clever touch from Erno. Brought down by Hillier. Disappointing thing for Vlado Knežević is that Manly United have had the sun shining on them for a period of this first half, but once again they've failed to make hay. and have been punished for it down the other end. Those big moments not going this team of youngsters' way. So often the difference at this level, there's rarely a thick margin between any opposition across the competition, but those moments in both boxes, so decisive when the margins are that fine. Into the final allotted minute of stoppage time at the end of the first half. O'Driscoll. More in hope than anticipation for Jesse Perez, who had made the enterprising run forwards. So the question for Vlado Knežević will be who can make the impact off the bench again. A few of the players he's dropped tonight. Ben Coop, Kai Evans, Will Falder, all capable of making a difference, but Sydney United, who possess the greater firepower on their bench as well. The likes of Mason Wells there for Miro Vlastelica should he be needed. Bailey Rule wanted the throw. Decision goes against him. Manly United have one more chance to equalise before the break. Kimura. Burgess. They've been forced backwards. And the clock is going to beat them here. Well, both teams had periods in the ascendancy over the opening 45 minutes, but it was the visitors who took their chance. A hopeful strike from the edge of the box from Bailey Rule. Blocked by Aaron O'Driscoll, but falling straight to the feet of Kyle Chimenti, who's been in goal-scoring form and found the bottom corner to give Sydney United the lead at the break. It's been 15 years since they've won here in league football. They ended an overall drought in the Cup in May. They're halfway to picking up 3 points here for the first time in more than a decade. At half-time here from Cromer Park, it's Manly United 0, Sydney United 58-1.
Headley has come over to the right flank to help out. Tay Headley skips around the defender, went to ground rather slowly. Don't have to convince the referee there was a foul. Lancaster, a bending ball and a header in.
An ex-Western Sydney Wanderer, Kyle Chimenti. It's Allen against Chimenti. And he slots it into the bottom corner and gives Sydney United the lead as they look. I may have said Rose, doing my best. There's no board here, so I'm having to do the count. Zanic, he's it out wide to Jennings. He's got Rule making the overlapping run. He goes to him. It's Carlos de Oliveira! Sydney United double their lead.
His last goal, in fact, in that 1-0 victory for the Raiders. Prendergast is under pressure. It's Knežević! He does have goal number 3 of the season. We were just speaking about it. Scoring that late equaliser in that 1-1 draw at the Village Green. As Prendergast has been caught out off his line. Oh my word, what a strike!
And he finds Kuda. Kuda back again for Kaspers. Lovely overlapping run. O'Driscoll holding up down there in the corner. Kaspers with Kuda. Oh, he's taken a heavy challenge there, Michael Kuda. Down he goes. Free kick taken quickly. Referee says play on. Gonzalez steps inside, drives it in, and he's opened the scoring. Oscar Gonzalez from the quickly taken free kick there. Nicely, just 1-0 for Appy Leichhardt. And here's Ortiz. Ortiz, can he get a touch inside the box? Ortiz is there. Oh, what a finish from Presley Ortiz. Absolutely fantastic.
Hollingdale's efforts up and over the wall. Fantastic effort from Riley Hollingdale. St. George can't buy a goal at the moment. This corner swung in. Rising header, and there it is! The much-needed goal for St. George. Battled Blacktown City. As here with Shueki. Not clear. Shueki finds the bottom corner.
Bring them any further towards goal. Foti. Oh, this is the moment. Pedersen! Beautifully timed ball. And Johan Pedersen. Another effort long. Clarkson is up ahead of Tap. There were no blue shirts in the picture. A second bite. And the ball is kept alive by Tap Tap. Another net win for St. George City. It can't be long now. And a volley it through a Forest. Olympic and the equaliser. Unbelievable.
Elliott finds Constable. He might try here. Flicks the ball up for McCarthy. Kept out the first time, but not the second. Right on the stroke of half-time. Mitch Malia looking to whip it in. Header from Grimaldi. Can't be denied that time, Travis Major. They kept away the initial header. Constable. McCarthy, originally deflected. Scortati's smart ball! And Chalakan buries it! And does he maybe?
Cocktail's deep in form. First Ješić with a chance, and Marko Ješić puts it away.
Welcome back to Cromer Park. Second half about to get underway between Manly United and Sydney United. And it's the visitors who lead by a goal to nil. Kyle Chimenti's second goal in 2 games, his second goal of the league season, has given the visitors the lead. Both teams back out on for the start of the second half. Just waiting for one of the goal checks to be completed. Seems to be all in readiness now. A cool but not cold night on Sydney's northern beaches to kick off round 19 action in the NPL New South Wales men's. Carlos de Oliveira kicking off the second half in, it's a very in vogue tactic across world football at the moment, just laying the ball into the corner so that you can set up a defensive press, and it's worked wonders here at the start of the second half for Sydney United. A free kick in a promising attacking area. Alex Morchanoff, my name, along with you for the second half here on the Football New South Wales YouTube channel as Vlastelica tries something very audacious. I'll tell you what, Mackenzie Cyril was trying to organise his defence and had left the goal gaping. We have seen more audacious strikes pulled off in this competition over the past few years. De Oliveira for Coco, and Sydney United try to double their leads, and Yumu Kimura forced to the tracking back there. Enterprising start to the second half, and Sydney United looking to bed in their advantage. Oliveira's delivered with his left at different times tonight, now delivering with the right, swinging in towards Ciron, headed clear by Perez. And Ozanic with a little bit of a heavy touch. You mentioned he wasn't moving awfully freely through the first half, the 18-year-old, but he's on his way back out for the second 45 minutes. Mason Wells still just ambling along the touchline, ready to take his place in this game if needed. It's Douglas John on starting debut for Manly United tonight. Sliding into the challenge, the free kick goes Sydney United's way. Vlastelica looking a little less direct this time. Chimenti was able to get to that ball, but it's his strike that's given his team the lead. Good record against this opposition, Chimenti. His last goal before last week, that win against the Western Sydney Wanderers, was against this opposition. All the way back on 17th of August last year. Ball out to the left from De Oliveira. Nakano darting inside. Still he goes, Nakano. Strikes the stanchion. With Sydney United creeping closer and closer to doubling their lead, they look more likely to score a second than Manly United do to score an equaliser at the minute. Vlado Knezovic must be thinking about his bench as Kimura drags down Coco, and it's going to be another attacking opportunity for Manly. Referee Mackey's still only handed out the one yellow card so far this evening. That was to Tommy Ozanic in the first half. United yet to see any of their players go into the book, and I think that's the point Adrian Vlastelica was making as he ran forwards. Miro's making the same point to the fourth official, Charlie Hollings, on the near touchline. Have to settle for just a set piece at the minute. The team have started this second half very, very brightly indeed. John Oliveira with 3 big bodies to aim for. It's not a bad delivery. Oh, and I'll tell you what, Azanic did well to hold his position and just nodded the ball wide. Another half clearance by Manly United that was nearly punished in full. Been their problem this evening, as has been finding the back of the net. We mentioned towards the end of the first half. Struggles in front of goal. Kept 6 clean sheets this season. I seem to concede goals in gluts a little bit at different times this year, Manly United. League leader in clean sheets this season. Their opposition tonight. And as sturdy as ever defensively. Michael Glasic's been a big part of that. Waiting for a ball to be supplied. It was a nice half volley from Vlado Knežević. Played ball boy from the other sideline. Driscoll spreading the ball to the right. Perez trying to dink one in behind. Nicely dealt with by Nakano. Driscoll there again. And he played his junior football, the Irishman, at Cherry Orchard in Dublin. Arrived in Australia via Christchurch, arrived in New South Wales via Altona in the NPL Victoria a couple of seasons ago. It's one of the few retained from the 2025 campaign to this one. An overhaul in squad from Manly United in the off-season. Jesse Perez wearing the captain's armband as he has all year. And much the leader of this team, 26 years of age. Oh no. Good challenge by Hillier. Turns away from De Oliveira and then leaves the football behind before Zanic seemed to give him a firm shove in the back, and Rebecca Mackie had a long look. Eventually blew the whistle. It's a fairly clear decision from here. De Robillard. They look comfortable at the moment, Sydney United, but they don't want this to turn into an uneasiness because they haven't been able to find the second goal. Once bitten, twice shy over the past month and a half. Well, this could be the release. Coco's played in Ozanic, who's seen off the initial defence. Can he sum it all up? He rolls it out for Gabriel Tillo. Still the ball there for De Oliveira. Ducks back out of the penalty area. And then elects to go for goal. The shot deflected. Chimenti happy to let it trickle behind for a Sydney United corner. Well, an attack that developed with much promise. Disappointed they didn't generate a clear shooting opportunity after all of that. Happy to settle for another attacking set piece. De Oliveira sent in a couple of dangerous deliveries already at the start of this second half. He goes the short option this time, interchanging passes with Coco. Strong defending from Hillier, and then Zanic has an air swing, which might allow Manly United out. Ono rolls it for Darcy Burgess. De Robillard cops the bruising blow from Bailey Rule. Handball against Hillier as he looked to control that, and this time the throwing goes Sydney United's way. So we mentioned that run that Manly United have had. Kept scoreless in their last 2 games. and searching for goals. So they turn to Will Fulder.
Making his way from the field is number 11, Ayumu Kimura. And coming onto the field is number 16, Will Fulder.
It's a change that Knazovic made to the starting lineup tonight. Like for like, Fulder and Kimura seem to be competing for that same position. Fulder, the 20-year-old, who was a regular goal scorer in that 20s Premiership campaign, scored in every other game. 27 appearances, 14 goals. He's got a couple in first grade now. Gorgeous turn from Hillier. He's shown his quality in those little tight spaces tonight. Not quite so the same as de Robillard, who couldn't find the killer pass there. Manly United building over the last 5 minutes. Perez. Griffiths for Fulder via the shin of Lastaleta. Burgess going down under the challenge, but Rebecca Mackey has been consistent and waiting to award free kicks in positions like that. Again, she had a good long look. She spotted a clip of the heels in there, judging by the body language, and this could be a very good chance for Manly United, who haven't developed too many from open play so far this evening. And so Adam Pavlicic has a wall to organise for the first time in their second half. 3 and it seems reasonable from this tight angle. We've got a great view of Kerouano, left footer. Holding a fairly high defensive line here to give Pavlicic the best chance to claim this ball at his own pace. Ono will try and send it into an area of uncertainty. Skipping the ball on the bounce. It's never easy for a goalkeeper, but Pavlicic, who has represented Australia at under-17s level, is for a time one of the highest regarded goalkeeping prospects in the country. Easily saw that off, and the release isn't bad either. It ended in a shot for Farah Koko down the other end. Straightforward piece of work for Mackenzie Sidron, but there's a little worry in itself for Manly United just how easily that all transpired. Last thing they want to be in this second half is gracious hosts. Isn't the tidiest bit of defensive work. Manly have started this second half brightly after absorbing a bit of early pressure. Much like they did the first half, to be honest. Didn't take their chances. They have got to find a way to goal. Did twice in the dying embers of that win against St George City 3 weeks ago. It's the last goals they've scored. Kimura, who got that goal down at Penshurst Park, has now been removed by Coach Knazovic. Classic outwitting Griffiths, looking to release Koko. He looks to have the beating of Perez, who had a good hang of him. Still he escapes his grasp, and eventually Neuenhofer crossing cover made the telling intervention. This game's starting to open up. Burgess. Ono joining in. Going to throw more numbers forward here, Manly United. De Robillard stops props and just elects to retain possession. Manly United, that's where they're looking for the killer pass. Hillier sends it forward. Fulder lost his footing. And Sting is after the attack once more. And these pressers won the ball back. Sydney United struggling to get out of their own half for the past 5 minutes, really. Numbers around the ball. They need them around the edge of the penalty area. Do the hosts. Hillier for John. Perez. Fulton marshalled by Nakano. Central for John. Wide for Hillier. Patient build-up from Manly United. And now Ono's in a crossing position. De Oliveira across in cover. Well, in fact, who was ruled back there? Tenacious as ever. Disciplined as ever. And the release from Azanic isn't bad. Coco did damage from this sort of area wearing navy blue last year. It's better of going forward and just retains possession with Nakano. Slide rule pass for De Oliveira. In the end, just forced to make sure the ball didn't go behind for a goal kick. Well, not only could the hoodoo be undone tonight for Sydney United, they could extend the run of games against Manly. They wouldn't have been beaten against this opposition in 5 if they can get the victory this evening. Last time Manly garnered points off Sydney United was the corresponding fixture last year back in round 3, which finished in a 0-0 draw. So a chance to find an equaliser here. De Robillard for Ono. And Fulder coming in off his left foot, but that was the product of patient build-up and consistent attacking impetus for the past 5 minutes. Tidy delivery from Ono, just missing its finishing touch. I think Miro Vlastolica might be sensing that the tide has turned against his team here. He's sending out some substitutes to go and warm up and perhaps try and swing the momentum of the game. I'm not sure he's quite so confident his team can just continue to absorb attack after attack, although they are one of the stingiest in the competition. Still plenty of time for Manly United to work their way out of this little hole. Cole Chimenti giving Sydney United the lead less than 5 minutes before half-time. Full turnover from Ozanic. One back by Burgess. Trying to shrug off the attention of Rose. John. Fulder had a chance just a moment ago. After coming off the bench. Still the only substitute used by either team so far this evening. De Robillard. Hillier scheming, looking for a nick in the Sydney United armour. John overhits his switch of play. Been a rare untidy pass from him tonight. He's been right amongst things in the heart of Manly United's midfield. Loss tonight does leave Manly United somewhat vulnerable. They've got a run of winnable fixtures over the next month, but rather try and lift themselves out result by result rather than relying on victories. Point tonight could be precious. An opposition that are happy to sit in against them, and this is really where they have struggled over the last couple of months. Teams happy to let them play with the football, knowing that they haven't quite shown that creative spark around the edge of the box and creating more opportunities for themselves. Ono key as ever. And to slide that ball in for De Robillard, but Classic is there, easing his way across in cover. Striking one of the goalposts onto that big pillar goalpost sign, which adorns the side of the building adjacent to Cromer Park. This would be a real sucker punch if Sydney United could go down the other end and find their second. Perez winning enough for the ball, according to the referee anyway. De Robillard darting inside. He always wants that right boot. Fulder. Ball was shy of Griffiths. Ricochet's pinballs through a few to Douglas John. Burgess is facing the wrong way. Sydney United won't mind him having the ball in that sort of area at all. Just want to prevent him getting it between the lines where he's a real proponent of a long strike or a slide rule pass in behind the defence. Now they try and go around this Sydney United block. Perez's pass is deflected. Another opportunity via the set piece. Waiting for a moment. Mentioned that Manly United have been able to keep clean sheets regularly. They've also been kept scoreless 4 times in the last couple of months. Don't want that stat to be added to this evening. That ball's deep, too deep from Ono. Really poorly mishit for a player of his quality. Wasteful. It's coming to be a recurring theme here at Cromer. With an interesting run. I mentioned that next 3 weeks. St George FC coming to visit next Saturday. A team that are on an 11-game losing run. Heading into this weekend where they take on UNSW at the Village Green tomorrow. Nobody has won there yet, other than UNSW since their promotion. If they don't manage to find a goal in the last few minutes here or there, they won't have scored at home in more than 2 months. They could change that here to Robillard! Against his old club. It's a sweet strike. And Manly finally break their duck here at Cromer. Their attack has ebbed and flowed here in the second half. And they get just rewards, that cutting edge that's been missing. Found by Stefan de Robillard's right foot, bending the ball into the corner. His 3rd goal of the season. 3rd for Manly United in league football. He scored 11 over a couple of years with Sydney United. And that will be all the sweeter because of that. And Vlado Knežević needed one of his senior players to stand up and take control of this game. Stefan de Robillard has done just that. They've been prompting and probing, and they finally found the chink in Sydney United's armour. No chance, Pavlicic. And de Robillard's, from a Sydney United perspective, given far too much room at the edge of their defensive penalty area. And so now they must go and find a second to win this game. Vlastelica with a marauding run, taking up the initiative. De Oliveira's got the taste for goal, but he hesitated for a moment too long there, and Hillier cut him off. Clean challenge. Well, it's just had enough to keep you engaged the whole way this game. You think one team's managing to get on top, the tide turns. And it's as though it's happened again here. The first booking of the night to a Manly United player, and it's gone to Darcy Burgess. Leaving one in on Bailey Rule.
Substitution for Sydney United 58. First off.
I mentioned that Miro Vlastelica was thinking about changes. He's gone for a treble of them. Anthony Tomilic, Michael Krislovic, and Mason Wells. So largely attacking. So Wells looks as though he'll take Tommy Ozanic's spot. Colchimenti, who got the opening goal tonight, replaced by the man whose spot he's taken in the starting lineup, Michael Krislovic. These are the changes that are going to change the complexion of the game. Manly Reading a change of their own. Ben Coop Got a knack for late goals in a game like this. Over the past 3 or 4 seasons. Manly got the bit between their teeth here. Darcy Burgess down the left. Might be a negative change. Burgess! Vlastelica right in the road, and needed to be. Adam Pavlicic. Well, words of encouragement to his defenders, but they might just need them because they are really being placed under pressure here. For the first time tonight, Mira Vlastelica is really up at the edge of his technical area, barking orders. They've got to make sure panic doesn't set in here. They were looking comfortable. Hasn't that changed in the past 5 minutes? Perez has the beating of Nakano again. John, who's just had it all happening around him. Gabriel Tillo was the final replacement that I didn't mention. So Wells has taken his place on the right-hand side. Scything challenge from John. Missed Coco altogether. And now Wells, who's got fresh legs, is chasing this ball into the corner. We know what he wants to do. It's get in on that left foot. Tried the reverse ball for Coco, who's over to help out. Now it's Sydney United who think the rub of the green's not going in their favour.
Your Man United FC making his way from the field. Number 17, Sam Griffith. And coming onto the field, number 9, Ben Coop.
With a like-for-like change. This one for Vlado Knezovic. He's put in the hard yards in his return to the starting side tonight, Sammy Griffiths. Never easy going up against the experienced duo of Vlastelica and Glasic, but he's acquitted himself well. He takes a hand from the crowd here in the Lucas Neal stands. Much of the rounds that has turned into quite the contest. What have the closing stages got on offer? Friday night football in the NPL New South Wales men's from Cromer. Always entertaining, oft late drama as De Oliveira goes down under the challenge of Darcy Burgess, who's just got himself booked. Be careful that doesn't draw too much attention to himself. Well, United had a man sent off in that game earlier this season in Adenza Park. Paul McCreary, stray elbow just before half-time, and he's not really seen the first team since. I'm saying that same fate would befall Darcy Burgess in any case, but just want to be careful. And Ben Coop's first contribution is to win a free kick and have Anthony Tomolich get his name taken. And they just come on the pitch as well. Tomat. United's all-time record appearance getter. Hasn't seen too much playing time in first grade over the first half of the season. Brought on here to add some know-how and some nous to a team that might need it. Coop has a go from a very long way out. And he's mishit that so badly it's gone out for a throw. He's capable of better than that, Ben Coop. Not on that occasion. A bit of rust out. He had a tough time of it a week ago at Arpia. Just his 4th start of the season. He's been used more regularly off the bench by Vlado Knezovic. A series of soft tissue injuries over the past couple of years that he's just having his minutes managed. Sort of player who can make an impact in moments like this. Nice touch from Yanni Fragayanis. Such a talented player during his time. Player Mira Vlastelica during his last tenure at the club. His head coach managed to lure her out of retirement, so now he's got him sitting alongside him as his assistant. Burgess. To the goal scorer, de Robelards. All marshalled this time by Dylan Rose. Tracked him step by step and hunted the ball off him, really. Oh, poor touch from Rule, easily picked off by John. Can Manly United find a second? Folder. Wasn't aware that he was being closed down from the blind side by Koya Nakano. He's showing he's got some fitness. He's been up and down the whole way, and he's forced the turnover. Krislovic couldn't beat Siron, who recovered well. Manly nearly the masters of their own demise there. The pressure from Koya Nakano was so impressive. He ran the best part of 50 yards to close the pass, and Michael Krislovic couldn't deliver when the moment arrived. Mackenzie Siron with a somewhat heroic saving act there. Although he didn't get a touch on the football, it was a good piece of goalkeeping to stay big, close down the angle and make the finish as difficult as possible. Krislovic, who's been somewhat of a secret weapon off the bench this year for Miro Vlastelica, couldn't add to his 7 goals already this campaign. Feel that could be a turning point. Coop lost his footing. And there's more pressure coming, this time from De Oliveira. Driscoll managed to hold him off this time around. Manly United's defence just need to call for a little calm here. They've been in the ascendancy for the best part of the last 20 minutes. They've found their equaliser in that time. No need to throw away all that hard work now. Wasselitz has done very well to keep that ball in play. He was hugging the touchline. It's winning time here at Cromer Park. Final 15 minutes. Plenty on the line. Sydney United can't really afford to drop more points this evening. If they're serious about what's going on here. Vlado Knezovic, as vocal as he's been this evening, barking orders at his attackers. They try and get forward. Neuenhoff. Wide for Ono. Vlastelica just having a word to the fourth official there again. If there's a further change forthcoming, I can't see one that's immediately apparent. Goes with a hopeful ball over the top. It's pushed Sydney United into an awkward area. Nakano wriggles his way out. And a pressure relieving free kick from Will Folder. Yeah, we predicted the change might be coming. It is now. For Sydney United, as Koko goes over on his haunches, and Nick Protezina is being readied. Brother Michael was the breakout sensation. We mentioned those Sydney United juniors that have been coming out of their academy over the last few seasons. Protezina's both Canberra locals, making the move up after a very successful campaign done in capital football with Canberra, Croatia a year ago. Been trying to work his way into the starting side. Just the one start so far this season with a regular substitute. And he find his first goal for his new club tonight. It would be a precious one. So 11 minutes to go. Manly United have had the better of this second half, but Sydney United just working their way back into the contest. After copping the equaliser from the boot of this man, Stefan de Robillard, their former charge. John with a bit of an iffy switch of play, and Wells looking to unlock Manly. Krislovic, who's had the best chance since this game went level, not able to bring that ball under his spell. A couple of those moments that Krislovic was snapping up earlier in the season, sort of hat-trick off the bench against UNSW on the opening day. It's outstanding performance in a Sydney United shirt so far in his career. He's had a couple of good days since then. Looking for another one here. A sliding challenge from Fulda. Beautifully timed. Sydney United have an attacking throw from which to base themselves. Into the final 10 minutes. Well, Sydney United's hoodoo at this ground in league football continue. Here is keen on ensuring that happens. Hoists the ball over towards Cromer 2. Pratejina. Short for Nakano, taken away by Fulda. Tomlic won the first, John won the second, Vlastelica the third. Fulda takes it down to the turf. Nakano's cutting pass for Krislovic. De Oliveira. He tried something clever. Top 5 in goal involvement so far this season. Carlos De Oliveira, that's goals and assists. Looking to play provider there. He goes into the challenge on Hilliard, who escaped his clutches. Coop playing hold up. And Pratejina tracking back and doing his defensive work. Just have a feeling this game might have a winner. Neither team keen to leave tonight with just a solitary point. And happy to risk losing that point for all three. Making for good closing stages viewing if you're a neutral. Nervy if you're a Sydney United or Manly United supporter. Oh, gorgeous turn from Wells. He's escaped the defence. Oh, and then overran the ball at the critical moment. It was such a sweet first touch from Mason Wells. As though he had a moment longer than he thought he might. Manly United still inviting that high Sydney United press late into the game. Well, you can see why Manly United got high raps on Doug John. He's turned that one over though. Coop trying to bail him out. Rose just happy to scrap the ball forward at this stage. The first suggestion, Manly United aren't going all out for the 3 points here. Seron just taking his time. Still trying to be enterprising and play their way out though, and they've unpicked the Sydney United press again here. Burgess, numbers for Manly, Derobillard. Perez, doesn't score many, Jesse Perez. Inventive effort, he took it with the inside of his boots. Led to the ball just curling further wide of Pavlisic's far post. Another nicely constructed moves. You're seeing the green shoots of what a Manly United are trying to grow here against one of the best teams in the competition. Wells. Attack of Sydney United zone now. Nakano for Pratejina. Oliveira happy to recycle. Tomlic with a forward look. Really scrappy defending from Luke Neuenhoff just to get himself in front of Krislovic there. Oh, gorgeous bit of skill. Well, you thought from Burgess, but couldn't retain the football. Rose. Oh, is this the moment? Cut out by Fulda. It was an enterprising run from Nakano, who has nearly made the difference. His press led to the best chance since this game went 1-1 to Michael Krislovic. couldn't quite generate another chance there. Fulder seeing the ball behind. He thought the final touch had come off a Sydney United player. Referee Mackie disagreed. It's been a couple of nearly moments in the past 10 minutes. Will the final 5 hold the defining one? Match of round 19 going down to the wire as De Oliveira delivers. Oh, it's right on Siron, who had to tip it wide. Tomalic! Free kicks been blown. A foul spotted amongst the scrum in front of Mackenzie Siron. Perhaps a little let off for Manly, who threw bodies in front of the ball in any case. Tomalic struck that ball pretty sweetly, not knowing that the whistle was about to be blown. Game that has tossed and turned from start to finish. Manly held the ascendancy for the opening 25 minutes. Sydney United came home with a rush at the end of the first half and got their goal through Kyle Chimenti. 2 in 2 weeks for him. And Manly finally did find a breakthrough after a pretty unrelenting period of pressure on Sydney United's defence midway through the second half. And so we sit level with less than 5 minutes of regular time to play. So it was a bit of a desperate header, but it's fallen to Wells on a very rough challenge from Hillier behind play. And although Wells got the shot away, it did affect his strike, and so the free kick's gone in Sydney United's favour. Rightly so. A little bit of ill discipline from Saxon Hillier. He could never accuse of giving anything less than 100%, but that challenge was a bit overzealous. And it's just left the door open a crack here for Sydney United. They throw bodies forward. All 11 Manly United players behind the ball. 3 in a wall for Mackenzie Siron. 2 defenders grasping Michael Krislovic even before this free kick's going to be taken. It's up towards Classic. Oh, and Siron came a long way, didn't get there, and the ball is nodded behind by Doug John. Goodness me. Well, Mackenzie Siron, after 10 weeks out, is right in the centre of the storm here. Another corner to defend, and the ball has beaten him, but was cleared off the line by Ono. He argued he was being fouled. Play allowed to continue. Sydney United at last chance saloon. Classic goes down. To his credit, he didn't appeal for anything. Really closing down from Wells. Those fresh legs being put to good use. We haven't had a ball over that side of the pitch, though. Vlado Knežević has been knocking half volleys over there all evening. Try and get the ball back in play. And now the press comes from Sydney United. Rose in a wrestling match. Ball forced to Coop. Couldn't find Fulda. Classic and Nakano nearly getting tangled up. Eventually sort themselves out. Cut the tension with a knife here. The game still feels like it could just flip on a moment in either direction. Doesn't quite feel right, this one ends all square, but it might well do. Krislovic stretching, away by Neuenhoff. Coop away from Classic. And brought down cynically by Vlastelica. Who knows what's coming? At this stage of the game, I'd say if he had his time over 10 times, Adrian Vlastelica would have taken the same course of action there. Vlado Knezovic likes about Benku. It's what so many coaches have liked about him down the years, his ability to run at the opposition defence. They try and steal a few yards. Ono sent almost back to halfway. Again, the calls for a high line. Adam Pavlicic is trying to move them even further forward. 4 minutes to be added on. The ball is deep. And Nieuwenhof committed a foul as he looked to run onto that one. Maybe time has gone. Manly United have copped their fair share of late winners against them this season. Don't want history to repeat itself there. They managed to claim a late winner of their own 3 weeks ago at Penshurst Park. Haven't scored 2 goals in a game since that night. Commanding win from Vlastelica. Only falls as far as Hillier, who asked too much of de Robillard. This is a point that would just stagnate Sydney United somewhat as they continue to pursue the top two. Apia and Marconi, who they led for the opening 3 months of the season, and it would be an even worse sting if they were to concede late here. They welcome SD Raiders to Edenza Park next week. A trip to Illingdon to face Sydney FC, and then an away trip to Landon Stadium against old rivals Blacktown City. So winnable each of the next 3 fixtures, but I'm sure they would have circled this one as such heading into this Friday night. Burgess to deliver. Easy claim for Pavlicic. Now Mason Wells can burst forward in counter-attack. Bailey Rule making his way forward. In fact, it was Protezina on that right-hand side. John well positioned. He's going to run out the 90 minutes in his starting debut by the looks of things, although he's staying down now, perhaps with a little bit of cramp. And Ono knocks the ball over the touchline, so the 18-year-old can receive some treatment. It's going to take some sting out of Sydney United's chase here. I want play restarted as soon as possible. Suggesting it's just cramp, so physio is going to be kept out of the way. I think Manly United are going to make the change anyway, so Douglas John just falling short of running out the game. Has made it past 90 minutes in his starting debut, and he's looked right up for the challenge. Makes his way off at the far side. Yeah, Toby Bakewell makes his way on. So a last-minute substitution for Manly.
Substitution for your Manly United FC, making his way from the field, number 29, Douglas John. And coming on the field, number 24, Toby Bakewell.
Takes his hand, Doug John, for a very impressive starting debut. And Manly make it an even happier memory and find a winner. Coop for Burgess. Joining in is de Robillard. Couldn't get a second, could he? Burgess just needs it in the area. There it is for Fulda. Heroic defending from Nakano. Diving across in front of his attacker. Skin tight marking. De Robillard. Lovely little shimmy. He's into the area. Stefan de Robillard hits the post. And Manly were that close to all 3 points. Pavlicic palming it onto the upright. Might not have wanted the credit this late. Could the hosts steal all 3 points? The point will be precious in itself. 2 more, even more so. 2 in front of Pavlicic. Burgess delivers. Pavlicic punches. Fought his way through the crowd. De Robillard. They just did it in the box, Manly. You can hear the crowd calling for that. Neuhoff in a wrestling match with Tomilich. Perez in a crossing position. His ball was left short. Nice ball wide, Neuhoff stayed forward. Here's the chance! What a save from Adam Pavlicic! Well, it's his point as much as anyone else's for Sydney United because of the two saves in stoppage time. To hang on to the point. The hoodoo continues for Sydney United at Cromer Park. They led inside the first half. Kyle Cimenti scoring in back-to-back weeks. But Manly fought back. They found their equaliser through Stefan de Robillard. They hit the post. And then Adam Pavlicic with a last-minute save to make sure Sydney United at least came away with a point from a very entertaining contest on Friday night. Sydney United can't win on their second trip to Cromer this season. And it's another little hurdle in their race for the premiership. Hope you've enjoyed the coverage here from Cromer Park on Sydney's Northern Beaches. Friday night football has delivered again, but not a winner. It ends Manly United 1, Sydney United 58 1.